Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And I am so excited to have my people. These are my people today. I haven't had interviews for a while, and it's just been me. So you're going to enjoy meeting my people if you haven't heard or met them before. This is my Wednesday Mastermind group, which we call the Power Five. And we meet every Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. Central for how many years, you guys? 5 years?
Yeah, it's going on 5. Ah, man.
Right. So I'm going to introduce everybody, and let's just start. I'll just go around the room. Dodie, you want to tell us about you? And maybe here's for everybody who you are, what you do, and why you joined, and why you're still here after 5 years. So, Dodie, tell us about you.
Sure. I'm Dodie Kettler. I am recently retired realtor in the Twin Cities, now living a very different, weird life that I was living before when I joined this group. So I joined this group. I had met all of these wonderful people at some other ventures we had been a part of. And so I had an opportunity to join this group. I didn't take it. And then I did some other things. And then I said, if there's ever an opening, please let me know. And there happened to be. And so I jumped on that because I wanted to be around these people mostly. Like Jody says, these are our people. So every Wednesday morning, I mean, rare occasions, one of us misses for an illness or something we have going on, travel or something. But we're here every Wednesday. And when I first joined, I was, building a real estate business um, and when I retired, due to some issues with my husband's health and things like that, I kind of thought maybe I won't fit in this group of people anymore. But it's so funny because all of us seem to be evolving and changing into different things, and it still works with these Power Five people. So that's why I'm still here.
We're
Awesome.
glad you
Thank you,
came back.
Dodie.
We're
Yeah,
glad
we're
you
very
showed up.
glad. So let's hear from Teresa. Tell us about you, where you are, what you do, and why you're still here, Teresa.
Well, I am from Fargo, and I'm a self-employed person, primarily in the real estate sector. I have my own brokerage. I do real estate education, investing, and such. And I just wanted to show up and have people that could have deep conversation and surround myself with really positive, like-minded people that pushed me a little bit, that I could help when they needed to be pushed. And it just is something that's really worked for 5 years. Like, just to be able to have really good conversation became really important to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Ed, tell us about
Yeah,
you.
my name is Ed LaQuire, Rochester, Minnesota. I'm a chiropractor here, and I met, I think, all of you except for Teresa in another organization, and we got to know each other pretty well and had a lot in common. And I remember being on, other Zoom calls with a different organization. I just remember having this feeling of guilt if I wasn't able to be there, or if I was running late, or if I happened to be doing the podcast and my kid was in the background and it wasn't as professional as I could be. I just remember all those feelings that I had to do it just so, and when you talk about being real, listen, it's nice to have an environment where you have trust, understanding, support, all those things that you need to have. And for 5 years, I've had that, and it's just been wonderful to the point where I got to tell you, I was stuck for a while. You all know that. And Dodie, you said something, and this is when you said you came back, and I'm so glad you did. You said something. You were very direct, and it came from the heart. But it was probably one of my if I was to say what was the moment that had the biggest impact on me, it was the moment you said, well, let me back up a little bit. I was struggling with some financial things and just my place, and you said, like, you're still there, you're still in that place. And now you didn't mean it in a mean way, but you called me on it, and I thought about that, and I realized that I was playing the victim role, And I kind of didn't recognize it, but I did. But I really needed to hear that. And I began to look at myself in a different way. And this mastermind group has allowed me to kind of experience all kinds of things, all kinds of occurrences, and learn from that and grow from that. So I get to show up and be myself, be vulnerable. And I thank you guys for allowing me to do that and to get through my trials and tribulations of life. So it's been
That's awesome.
monumental for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Ed. And David, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm echoing Ed for some reason. Anyway, David Boswell, I am in Austin, Texas, have a property management company for last several years, and I have lived different professional and business lives. So some of that just bleeds over. Have business networking mastermind company that is working at a different level. So real proud of that and the people involved in that. But I was asked, I think, by Jody to join the group originally. And that's why I joined, because I already built a relationship with Jody. And when Jody said, hey, you need to do this, I figured I needed to do it. But I primarily like to build relationships and see how we can work together and so on. So that's been great. The good thing is to be challenged. And, you can hear the word no in a positive way. Several times oh man, it's 5 years. Do we need to change this? Do we need to take a break for a little while? And then everybody's like, no, So we're all here for our own intended purpose, and it's working. What I really like is that everybody's from a different background. Everybody's at a different stage in their career and their life. And that type of diversity is great. It promotes the sharing. It's like, hey, be prepared for this. This is what's coming next. This is what I've been through. We can learn from each other's experiences. So as different as we find ourselves, we figure that we're going through or have been through some of the same situations.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes somebody will come. I know this has happened to me several times. Somebody will come to the call and they'll say, I need this. This is what's going on with me. And I'm listening, intently, listening to, because everybody's giving good advice. And I'm secretly taking that advice for myself because I'm going through the same darn thing, But it's an area where you can be very vulnerable. We've shared some tears. I know I've changed not only professionally but personally in a lot of different ways to help enhance relationships outside of the call. We took a retreat and met each other. So that's there's not a lot of relationships that I've built like that outside of this call. So I'm real proud of the 5 years we spent.
Yeah.
That's great, David. And what you're reminding me is energy is non-geographic. We're really learning that and experiencing that. We have gotten together. Have we gotten together twice as a whole group? I think, yeah, once in Minneapolis, once in Fargo.
Yeah.
And so
and then here, every time once a week, I drive by that little picnic area where we had our stuff, and just like all those memories of our retreat come flooding back.
Right. It's so awesome to even me, I'm thinking of it right now. I'm not there physically, but I'm thinking of that space, and I can go back there too. And what we experienced, what we learned, what we shared, and all of that. If people are saying, oh, this Zoom is terrible and I hate, not being in person. Yeah, I think I'd prefer that too. But we've proved over 5 years that we can be real with each other over Zoom. And so I really love that you guys said that. So you mentioned the word mastermind, David.
Jody, hold on 1 second. I just want to turn this to you for a second because I think I'd like to give you a chance to tell us what this means to you. Because in the very beginning, you were the facilitator. The way this was set up, you were facilitating us and timing us and tracking time and all those things. But we began to change that, and you began to add, you into the instead of being the facilitator, you were a member, and you added a lot. And so I want to make sure that you have a chance to tell us about you.
Thank you, Ed. This is my podcast. You're not supposed to ask me the questions, but okay. Thank you. So this is a time for me on Wednesday mornings. We meet at 7:30. I feel like I have my people. I said that earlier, I think. There aren't a lot of places like that in my life either, David, where I feel I can be completely myself with people. When you're the facilitator of things, you have to be on, you feel like you have to be on all the time. And here it's really great to figuratively let my hair down and be able to say, I'm struggling with this. Can you give me some advice about this too? That's what I love about being real in the world, but me too, right? I don't always have it figured out. However, what I've learned from you and what I've learned from being able to speak into the space, the listening space you give, is that I have far fewer episodes in my real life where I'm struggling like I might have before we shifted from facilitator to participant. So what that means to me is I have far fewer challenges because I've been able to work things out with you that, like you said, David, show up in real life as well. So because we do this on a regular basis, because I know this is part of the routine, it shows us, you guys, discipline, discipline of doing it, whether or not we get any huge ahas or it's like, oh my God, that was the best meeting ever. Because once in a while I'm like, oh my God, that was the best meeting ever, right? Because I learned so much. Once in a while it's just, oh, it's just so good to see everybody. And it's not always, mountaintop, but that's not how life is. And with you guys, it's so awesome to be able to, I'm going to say exhale, let my shoulders down, be me. Be the complete package of me. So Ed, thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be implied that I'm faking any other part of my life, but it's just that you can shine the full light here and then, kind of adjust the light where it needs to be adjusted. So that's how
It's almost like there's like a magnifier, right? So there's 5 of us. And so everything each one of us goes through,
Yeah,
we
I was just thinking about that.
bring that into our own lives in the way that we respond to the next issue or the next thing. It's almost like you get 5 times the life experience as you're
Yeah.
you're living it with someone else.
Yeah,
That's a good way to
I've
put
heard
that.
the masterminds before. I've heard of this before, but until I experienced, I didn't realize the power, not even the power, that's true, but the magnitude, the impact it has, because you get to go through, the trials and tribulations of other people without without anything, a negative response, right? You get to go through that and learn from it. So that's been really powerful for me.
So yes, and I want to say about mastermind, that word, because I think we're throwing that around because we know what it is.
Yeah.
So we've studied, some of us on this call have studied Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, which is where the word was coined, mastermind. And the real definition of that is people who get together in a spirit of harmony for a chief definite purpose. And when we come together for a chief definite purpose, the best of all of us, like you just said, magnifies or, comes into the conversation because we bring that out in each other, the best of us, even when the best of me is lower one day, because it could be, right? The best of me today is not as best of me as it's been in the past, perhaps, and we get to do that wherever we are. And so I love that you said we can take this out and use it in our real life and then come back, because that's what a true mastermind does and is. Teresa, did you want to add something to that? I saw you unmuted. This is how we kind of, I watch
nope.
and I go,
No, I was I have a cold, so every
you're
time I
coughing.
cough, I mute it. Yeah.
Got it.
I'm not disruptive, but it's exactly, that's how a mastermind works. And it's so fun and powerful to watch or to be a part of when we've really like hit those ahas, and it's almost magical because everyone's putting in some thoughts and ideas, and then all of a sudden something just clicks and it's like, oh my gosh, there it is. And you just don't get that with a lot of discussions outside of this. It's a hard thing to explain until you really experience it.
I think so too. It's listening. You guys, you're what I observe, you and I too have developed our listening skills in a different way because we're not in the same room physically. So I I have learned to give you my full attention looking into a camera, which is not being with you and seeing your eyes. And I've developed a better skill of listening. And what I learned too is my speaking becomes greater when the listening is, I call it the yes space, where people are listening in a yes space. Because we've talked about crazy things. Think about it. We've talked about, I need $10 million for this building I want to buy. And we've talked about things that most people would say, what are you, crazy? You can't get $10 million. That'll never work. Because people in your life probably want to shield you from anything that might give you any disappointment. And we're like, okay, what do you need? So could you think, I'll not put you necessarily on the spot. Could you think about a time when this group was really important in that way for you, where you didn't really necessarily know where to go for an issue you were dealing with? Because I remember a couple of times we had, we'll call it emergency meetings, where we'd say, I need you. And the group would just come together. Anybody want to talk about any of those?
And yeah, before they do, I just want to say that was amazing. There was one occasion, I don't need to say who it was, but it was like 7 o'clock at night, and one of us needed the group to get through something, and everybody showed up, supportive, and we got through it together, and that was really cool. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's always that. I think I might have been the first person to. I didn't even call it. I think Jody called it and said, "Hey, look, everybody," and everybody showed up
Yeah.
at a strange time, of the day and an off day, and everybody just made time.
Yeah.
And when you have a group like that, that's just. I normally, everybody has their person that they would call in an extreme emergency, whether you're getting bailed out of jail or whatever's happening, and that's one or two people probably for most people, but when you go through a hard situation, and you need that support, or even just a listening ear, word of encouragement, that's just remarkable. It's really incredible. And I remember when my dad passed, and I was like, I'm not getting on a call.
David, can you back up a second? That was Wednesday morning. So what happened?
Yeah.
That was right before our call, right?
It was right before the call, yeah. And I remember I sent you a text, Jody, and said I'm not going to be able to do it, and I mean that was very unexpected, and then it took me a while to even get back on the call. And I remember I was in bed.
For a while you got back on the call just listening, no camera.
Right.
Yeah. I was barely getting out of bed, and it was like, just get on the call. And I wanted to get on the call, but then I was like, I can't get on the call. And, and because every Wednesday morning reminded me of the passing of my dad too. So it was crazy. It was crazy, but I was able to fight through it and get through some things and get back to regular life, with everybody's help here. And that was important to me.
Yeah. Have you guys seen Ted Lasso?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, they have this diamond dogs,
Yeah.
And I think they got that from us. And it reminds me of that. They figure it out, and I can't help but go back, and without judgment, man, just love and support.
Well, and I think sometimes, I love that you have all kind of touched on this, but sometimes you need the group and sometimes the group needs you. And so it's not a space where I don't think we keep score and keep track and say, hey, I took more of your time. And we used to. At the beginning, it was like, I'm sorry, I've taken more of your time, because we were kind of diligent about timing. But it doesn't feel like that anymore. I hope nobody feels like I took up too much of the time, because sometimes our job is to listen and provide that space.
Yeah,
for sure. There's been at least 5 big major decisions I've had to make in the last 5 years. Like, that's just life. We all have big major decisions. And there's just been some very specific things that were said along that route that really helped me sort through the decision and make that and be comfortable with it. And you're right, people want to protect you, or people want to be naysayers, and with you guys it was never that. I've never had any of that. And I just remember, David, you asked me once, and it's like so simple, you're like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And that just like hit me so hard. Like, you're right. The worst thing that could happen really isn't that bad. So it's just been those little moments like that that have really pushed me to constantly grow and make those decisions.
I think we said discipline before, but we get better at what we do over and over again, you know, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we're doing things consciously or unconsciously, we're getting better at it, right? So if what we get better at is complaining about things we don't like, we would be probably doing that unconsciously. And for us, it feels like we bring things to the surface. We shine lights on things. We talk about things to bring them to consciousness, because otherwise we leave the call and go, you know, do our lives the way we've been doing it. And without a different perspective, in this case, each of us would have 4 different perspectives. And we don't always agree. Let's talk about that a little bit. We don't always agree. We don't always have the exact same idea for things. Yet I would say it doesn't matter. Do you guys feel okay not agreeing with everybody?
Yeah.
I think that's the point.
I mean, I think most of the time we agree because there's like some kind of harmonious thing that goes on and we're all kind of growing at that same level. But once in a while we don't, but that's good, right? That's tossing it back and forth. And if you looked at the 5 of us 5 years ago and now, like, it's crazy the changes that we've gone through and the people that we've become, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you're in it, you don't often see it, right? When you're in it, and we've done that before. We've stopped and taken a look at things, and we've, you know, I mean, we created COVID, right?
Yeah. I was going to bring that up a little while ago. I'm like, I'm not sure how that's gonna be
No, that's
received,
not
you know?
true, everybody. But everybody who's listening,
Yeah.
we've actually made statements here before, and we've said things like, let's manifest something this week, or let's talk about this, or let's see how we can create a situation in our lives which we can then say happened because we had this conversation.
Let's attract $10,000, remember?
Oh, we'll talk about that, Ed. Talk about that.
Oh, you finish. I'll come back to that.
Well, okay, so an example of anything would be, let's see if we can manifest this. And at one point, Ed, that was what we did. So talk about that.
Yeah, so I have I use Wells Fargo, and you're able to, in Wells Fargo, set up accounts and fund them, you know, and then hide them. And I do that on purpose because that way I'd be surprised one day. So I did that intentionally, just, you know, savings account, money for miscellaneous things. And I just had 3 accounts. I was funding, I don't know, $100 here and there, and something that was you know, deposited. And I remember when I set it up, I said, please just forget this, you know. I wanted to forget it. And then we had talked about this. We said, you know, I need $10,000. I want to attract for something. I forget what it was for. And then all of a sudden I remembered, or I was on the back office of Wells Fargo, and I clicked on those 3 accounts, and there was like $10,700 combined in the 3 of them. I'm like, oh my God, you know. Now, you know, that was cool. Now it was my money. It's not like I found it. It was always going in, but it's just accumulated enough to where it was something. It was substantial enough to be monumental for me that I recognized the fact that, yeah, I attracted it.
Right.
You know.
Well, I remember when that happened because I was mad at you. Because I think on that same call, and I call it manifesting magic. We got to manifest. We got to come up with a better term for what we do. But anyway, on that same call, I think you said, "Oh yeah, you know, I need $10,000," and I was like, "Man, yeah, 10,000. Let me manifest that." And I don't remember my number. I think it was like it might have been $3,000 or something. And you came back and said, "Oh, the $10,000, you know, blah blah blah." And I was just proud of my $3,000 that showed up in the mail in a check. And I think it was, I don't know, you know what it was? It was like an overage or something. I don't know. And when it was unexpected, and I was like, wow, I manifested money. I mean, I was so pissed at Ed. I was like, man, how come he didn't tell me to think bigger? It could have been 10 grand. It could have been 15. How come, you know? So yeah, that taught me a lesson too. I'm like, okay, Ed's thinking bigger than me. I need to get there.
Yeah.
But go back to the pandemic, because I think we should clear that up.
Yes, we did not create that. We just said that on March 11th, 2020, I'll never forget that date.
Yeah.
March 11th, 2020, we were having a conversation about just like this. And we said, we need to create something. We need to say, you know, in our manifestation practices, let's create something. Let's say it's going to be something really monumental, and it will be so great that we'll say it was because of this or something.
Yeah,
It
well,
had to be
the-
massive change.
the
It
Yeah.
had to be massive
I know
change.
the year before for me was a really rough year, you know, and I didn't want to repeat that. You know, I wanted something very defined that I know that that was going to change the direction of my life. You know,
Mhm.
that's how I thought of it. I want it to be so clear that I knew that it was because of my actions that you know, because my thoughts or whatever, that you know, my life is going in a different direction. You know, I think we do that sometimes. We
Yeah.
all like, I mean, New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
Set your resolutions. And literally the next week, the pandemic started.
Well, and so yes, we did not say we're going to create something that's world changing that, you know, has
No,
the
no.
bullshit on. But so we joke about it. We kind of say we must have done that because of the power of our thoughts. And ha joke, but it comes back because we can go the 10,000 or the 3,000 or the building we want to buy or the, you know, whatever it might be. That is possible for us, and we practice in ways every week. And I mean, 3,000 is not insignificant, David. It's something, right? It's something we can measure.
Oh, it was something. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that Ed had 10 and you know, we've done all of these things. So it's not like we don't believe this. And you can call it manifestation magic. I think that's a great thing to call it. Think back, all of us probably have something we can say. It's because of this group. It's because of what we have done. It's how we've disciplined our mind. It's how we've disciplined our thinking. And we've shifted our attitude. Dodie, you have shifted so much from, can I just say about control? Can I just use that word? What would you?
Yes.
How
Just
can
don't
you,
add the freak to it and we're good.
how do you see yourself having shifted, Dodie?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I have the words really. I think between everything that we've done, you know, the self growth that we've all sought for ourselves and the experiences we've been through, you know, I've been through some experiences with my husband's health and my health over the last few years that, you know, that takes the control right out of you.
Yeah.
So, you know, between that and really learning, you know, I never really wanted to change myself because I felt like I was made the way I was made for a reason, you know, and I think that ability to control and kind of run things, you know, did really good things over my life, homeschooling my kids and starting businesses and being really good realtor and all those kind of things. And then as things changed and all these things got put into my lap that I couldn't control, you know, you either, I think you fold or you learn how to morph, right? And so, yeah, there's been a lot of morphing in my life with the ability and the desire not to control and the rest that, you know, comes along with that.
You know what? I love that you just said that, ability and willingness, because those are two things that I think all of us looking around the circle, we all have the ability. We know ourselves well enough and know each other well enough to know we have the ability to do whatever we want. We're smart people. We have done a lot of work in business and personal development, all those things. So we're smart. It's the willingness. When I look around the world, I don't see a whole lot of people willing to get on a Zoom call every Wednesday morning for an hour and do that forever. I mean, you know, I don't know that any of us have an end date in mind for this group. And so the fact that we've even done that, even just said, this is a commitment that I'm willing to take on, that creates a muscle in us. And it shows us that we have the ability and the willingness to take this on.
Yeah.
So Teresa, I know you haven't talked a lot about your manifestation powers lately, and I know things that you probably haven't shared as much with this group, but there's something about your ability to see things, vision. You have a great vision for things. Could you share a little bit about that? You don't have to, I don't want to call you out, but this feels like a safer place to have those kinds of conversations where else would you have them?
Right, because a lot of people don't understand understand that, and I truly believe everybody has that skill and has that muscle, but it's just something you have to develop and be safe with. And I feel like this group provides that. But there are things that I have seen or forecasted, or I don't even, it's such a hard thing to describe, but this group has always given me the okay to like talk about that and work with that and use that muscle. Um, it's just, it's a very safe space
Mm.
um, for me to be able to do that. And some of the things that I've talked about, like I feel like other people would be like, "Oh my gosh, voodoo," or that's really out there," or whatever. You guys like totally get that,
Mm.
and just about the universe and how the universe provides for you, and there's no coincidences, and opportunities are put in front of you for a reason, and it's up to us to take those opportunities or to really look at those opportunities in a different way.
Yeah.
And there's just so much power behind that.
Yeah.
I just can't even explain it. People ask me all the time, "Oh my gosh, why do you show up every one, why do you do that every Wednesday?" I can't explain it.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like I need to explain it,
Mm.
which is kind of a cool thing. Like it's
Yeah.
it's just there. And accountability, I have decided over the last 5 years, is accountability is a lot determines a lot of people's success, in my opinion. And that doesn't have to be fine. It can be financial, spiritual, emotional, relationships, whatever that may be. You have to be accountable. And that's what we are to each other. We're just
Yeah.
accountable to each other.
Mhm. You know what
Yeah,
I think it is? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that because even though we meet on Wednesday mornings, it tends to be the beginning and ending of my week because it's become really foundational. That's I think a key term for me. It's my whole week revolves around like this is like how I start my week, believe it or not.
Hmm.
It's like, and then we finish the week and we have the accountability aspect of things. And it just becomes just a foundational part of my life, part of my week and part of my life.
Mm. And I love that. You mentioned earlier, Ed, when we first started this call, that some of us were in another group where it felt more heavy. To me, it did. It felt more like I have to be there. I have to do this thing. If I don't do this thing, I'll feel bad for not having done this thing. To me, this is me now, not you, but this is me. That would be accountable to somebody. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm accountable with you. And to me,
Hmm.
that's completely different because if I decide not to do something or if something doesn't work, you don't cause me to feel bad about myself. We all have so much grace and space for each other. And when we allow that, I want to be accountable with you. I want to achieve the things I said I wanted to achieve because I want to come back and tell you how it went. Where and maybe we just needed contrast because all of us have been in situations in leadership where we've been led in organizations by people who aren't what we would have chosen. And I don't want to say this in a bad way because it's just giving us contrast. There's time and space for everything. And here, I feel like I want to be pulled toward things instead of pushed toward
Yeah,
them.
it's a good way to look at it.
Mhm.
I like
And
that.
so,
And I like what you said, Ed, because it's the perfect timing for me as well, like during the week. Because it's not the beginning of the week, and it's not the end, it's in the middle of the week. So that's usually when I need, like, how's this week going? And it's like, man, I really need to get this off my chest. I'm dealing with this.
Mhm.
Usually I'm not dealing with much going into the weekend. And then I'm on Mondays, I don't know what I'm going to be dealing with. I check my email.
Right, right.
So Wednesdays are perfect. And I didn't realize that until you just said that. So
And that's another thing we didn't plan. I mean, I think when we started, we just went, I don't know, is anybody available? When are you available? So
Yeah.
it sort of became, like you said, it became what needed to be. And I think it's working really well for us. And I love that you said we don't take roll. It's not like who's here? Oh, they didn't show up. No, it's like, oh, somebody's on vacation. I can't wait to hear where they went and what they did. And some of you have logged on at 2 hours earlier when you've been on vacation and it's dark where you are because you say, I need to be here today. There's no requirement. And yet there's something that pulls us because I want to be with my people. I think for me, that's the truth of it. So we've talked about goals for sure. We've talked about goals over the years. We've talked about what do I want to accomplish this year. We've done programs together. We had a retreat. We went through, steps of what we want to accomplish. We have a Google Doc where we can put all of our stuff. So this is not just frivolous, let's just get together and chit chat. There's a piece of that where I really do want to just chit chat once in a while, but it's not just to talk about stuff. Because if we only ever just talk about stuff, nothing really changes. And so could you guys talk about, you mentioned a little bit, something that you learned here or talked about here, and then how it got you through the week or the month. And you kind of mentioned a couple of things. I remember when David said this, and I'll never forget it. I remember when Dodie said this. Could you dig in your memory and see if there's anything else you can specifically remember that we talked about here that showed up in your real life? Not real
I'll
life.
go first.
This isn't real life. You know what I mean?
Well, and immediately when you said that, the one thing that I've really learned from this group is that nothing's personal. So as things happen to you and as people interact with you, and it's not a personal thing, it's more a reflection on them versus I don't, Jody, help me out and explain that because I think you're the one that was like, Teresa, it's not personal. Like,
Yeah.
and that's really a game changer when you start to think that way.
Everything everyone is doing is a reflection of where they are in their current
There.
situation, right? So they're just reflecting to you who they're being. And so to me, I look at the consciousness, conscious and unconscious, right? If people are conscious, they're open, curious, and committed to learning. And if they're unconscious, they're closed, defensive, and committed to being right. And so they're just showing you that all the time. It's not about you. I'll add, Teresa, though, until it is. Because at
Right.
some point you're like, crap, that might be for me. But I think we
Right.
recognize the difference now because we've been having these conversations for so long. So when you, for example, can bring up something about something in your life that's frustrating, you don't have to go, that's on me, that's mine. You can separate that and go, yeah, I don't think that one's mine.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And you've shared some things, Teresa, in your life that I'm going to say struggled, because it's not like we're all just like on this roller coaster of highs all the time. There are struggles that we bring, right? And we're like, what am I not seeing, or what is happening here?
Yeah.
You don't have to be
And
specific.
I love how you said, what am I not seeing? Because sometimes when you're so wrapped up in a situation or it becomes emotional, you tend to put those binoculars on or those blindfolds and you miss some of the things that you should be seeing. And that's what this group is really good about, because you're seeing it differently than my eyes and you can help me get there faster, which is really good.
That's a great.
Well,
Think about it. Think about it.
Okay, well, Ed, go ahead, and then David.
I'll be quick. 3, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I think at different levels, we were all going through a lot of things. I won't go into any details, but we were just going through a lot, and we began to come together and help each other figure that out, right? And wouldn't you say we're kind of coasting right now? We just don't have this. It's almost like this personal growth went like this,
Yeah.
and we don't have as many of those things coming up. Is it because, it's the world is still out there,
Yeah.
but we are
handle it
better
differently.
equipped to handle it, and it's just not a big deal anymore because we've been through it. Maybe not personally, but somebody in the group has been through it, and we know how to handle it, and we just get right through it.
The muscles that we've built are now stronger. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
David, you were going to say something else?
Well, I know that there's a lot of situations I've been in personally and so on, and professionally, that you guys have been instrumental in promoting change within me. So I've always, it's like, oh man, well, it's about me and how I react to things around me and how I deal with things. And, do I bottle this stuff up? And because I've never been one to do good with, stress. And so, I've always keep an eye open, ear open with you guys, and you come up with an idea and I'll go with it. And I know that, I don't know if Ed was on the call, but y'all gave me some financial advice. I'll go into that later when y'all know when that is, is outside of the call. And that really helped. That set me up for everything going forward. And I don't even think you guys realized what it was. But then Ed said something, and I didn't know if that was impactful or not. I thought he was crazy, but I didn't know if it was impactful or not. So I tried it. It's the cold shower thing that he came up with. Right? So I'm like, okay, yeah, Ed's lost his mind, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it. But when something seemingly is a dumb idea, and it comes out to be one of the best ideas that that I wouldn't have thought of. And hey, take a cold shower. Nah, that's not what I do. But if you look it up, it is. I mean, it's so healthy, for your skin, your hair, your metabolism, your mood, muscle recovery, sleep, circulation, all this stuff. And I'm like, well, okay.
I thought about that this morning, David, when I did it. I did it at the end and I went, and I said, I'm telling so I can say I did it, but it was not.
I'm like, Ed's trying to kill us all. He thinks it's funny. We get back on a call. Did you do the cold shower? Yeah, we did. All right, that's funny. That doesn't mean anything, but but it's a number of things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you really, outside of that, you really should listen to the perspective and the idea and experiences of somebody else. And see where you might be able to apply that. Some of those ideas that you come up with might not be the greatest ideas yourself, but when you pour into somebody else and they say, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? That's where it really comes together.
Oh, this is so good. And as you can tell, we're at time. We allow ourselves time, and then we're pretty diligent about staying on time, starting on time, ending on time. So as we just wrap this up, I just want to thank you all for your dedication to each other, to yourself, giving yourself the opportunity to be in this space, to be vulnerable, to be real, radical, energized, authentic, learning focused, and to just reflect today on some of the things that you've noticed. So as we wrap up today, I just want to thank you. Thank you for being my tribe, my people, and for being real. And if anybody has any last minute advice, last minute things you want to say,
Just jazz hands.
jazz hands. We should do a little video. We should take a picture, screenshot of jazz hands, and then we can put it up. No, we'll use our rock star picture.
Yeah.
We have a picture we took when we were
Rock
together.
band. Yeah.
Our rock band picture.
Yeah.
I'll put that up. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. And everybody listening, just go get real and you'll have results like we have.
I love you all. Thank you.
Love you
Love you
too.
too.
Bye.
Bye. See ya.